We are set for a primetime matchup that doesn't at all feel like a primetime matchup. We got the Jets and the Dolphins. One of these teams are getting their first win of the season. We don't know who it is, but we are going to talk to somebody who knows everything about the Dolphins, and we'd like to think we know almost everything about the New York Jets. We are going to have a good old-fashioned AFC East off. All right, we talking Jets, we talking Dolphins. It's Third Party Thursday right now. It's Boy Green meets Wudi.
Can you guys help us get a Jet chant here? Yeah, going.
Oh.
Okay, right, yeah. Come on in.
Yeah. Okay, let's go! J-E-T-S, Jets, Jets, Jets! Let's go! J-E-T-S, Jets, Jets, Jets! Let's go! There you go,
Third Party Thursday.
Chris joining us here on the program with a capital P here on the program.
Jake Asman, come on down. How you doing, good sir?
Wow, what an intro. I mean, Boy Green is known for having the intro, but Wudi, that was unreal, man. Thanks for the kind words, son.
We are men of many names.
My favorite Austrian Jets fan right there, baby.
Boy Green
meets Wudi. Welcome to another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. The energy is high in the comments. All these let's goes. I'm ready to run through a brick wall right now. Come on now. You know it's your boy James Wudi. Wudi rocking everywhere. I am not sure what happened to my boy, but I know he's coming back soon. The boy who became king. And you also know that it's Third Party Thursday, my favorite day of going on. The boy who became king is right back now. Come on now. It's none other than Paul Esden Jr. Okay. And speaking about people that have been on this show once or twice, we actually have a return happening on Third Party Thursday representing Fin Fanatic. I'm about to put my fins together for my guy, Brian Miller. Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm great, Wudi, man. It's great to be back here. We didn't get to do this in the final game of last season. It didn't work out. But this is like the highlight. I love being on with you guys. So this is like rivalry week. It's first game of the season that we're fighting each other. I love it. The energy's great.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, the energy is great right now. I know leading into the week for both of us, it's been not so good. Not so good. So I wanted to start off with just the key question, like what is up with the Dolphins? I mean, for the Jets, I know, we got a new coach, Justin Fields trying to figure out a lot of things. 0-3, was in the realm of possibilities, but with healthy Tua, Mike McDaniel, the cavalry, I'm not sure if this is what was on our bingo card. So just in general, how did y'all get here?
It's interesting because I don't think there's an easy path that you can say, well, they went this way instead of this way. When you look at the offensive lines is a problem. The cornerback issue is a problem. The secondary in general is a problem. The leadership is a problem. Tua Tagovailoa is a problem. Mike McDaniel is a problem. You put it all together and you go with all this youth, and it's a recipe for disaster. And I think that's kind of where we're at. Fans are pointing the fingers all over the place. I've got some ideas of where I would point my finger, but when you really look at this team, it was built with the idea that the secondary could just be good enough, and they're not. Dolphins have given up 30 points every game this year, and you can't win when you do that.
Well, let's do a follow-up there, because right before the season started, the Miami Dolphins jettisoned, to use that word, Jalen Ramsey outside from Miami to Pittsburgh. And I thought you guys got, a better haul than I would have thought. I thought, oh boy, with this sort of obvious trade possibly happening here, maybe they're going to get a late round pick. Instead, you get the homecoming for Minkah Fitzpatrick. What did that trade, if it sent any message, what was the message? Trading away Jalen Ramsey, this top flight corner right before the season.
I don't know if it really sent a message. So you got to go back and look at last year and then look at the 2023 season. The Dolphins were fantastic in 2023. Everything was clicking, everything was working right up until they got into the playoffs and got bounced. When they tried to do the same stuff in 2024, it didn't work. All those players that were showing up late, like Jalen Ramsey, didn't show up at all sometimes, would show up for an hour late for a team meeting or whatever the case was, or show up late for practice. And he wasn't just the only one, but all of these people were doing this. It was fine in 2023. They were winning. Nobody wanted to interfere with what was working. 2024 comes along, it's not working. Now all of a sudden, we want you to be here on time. This isn't acceptable. We're going to start fining you. And that doesn't sit well. You can't say to these veterans, you can do whatever you want, and then turn around and say, well, not anymore. I hate to say it, it's like dealing with a toddler. You can't give them candy and expect them never to eat it again. So after the season was over, there was a big players meeting with Mike McDaniel, and he basically said, if you don't want to be here, let me know and get the hell out of here. But we're changing the way things are going to be done. And when you look at a guy like Jalen Ramsey, it came right off of the start. They butted heads, and it was gone. I mean, it was just a matter of time. There was no way after it came out that Ramsey was going to be a member of the Miami Dolphins, and this was going on before the draft started. So it was just a matter of finding the right situation and the right trade, and that's how that came down. But it was long coming. It was something that had to be done. I don't think there was a message necessarily. It was just these two burned their bridges.
Well, let's talk about something that may need to be done, because I'll go back to the same 2023. Things were looking great. Did Mike McDaniel solve Tua? Tua was looking like an MVP candidate. My fantasy football team was balling because I had Tua and Tyreek. It was a fantastic time to be alive. But now we fast forward, 2 years later, Tua is playing, right? And Mike McDaniel's coaching, but we're not seeing the same results. I mean, moving forward, are both staying? Are both gone? Is one getting packed up? What do you see between this duo of McDaniel and Tua, the future of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I got to tell you, it's kind of funny that you asked me this today, because I just finished writing an article about that very question. A lot of people, like we said earlier, fans pointing their fingers. Is it Anthony Weaver's defense that's the problem? Is it Mike McDaniel's play calling the problem? Is it Chris Greer who hasn't got the right players? Or is it Tua Tagovailoa? I started looking into some things. I started looking at some research. When Mike McDaniel came in as the head coach, he had to take Tua. That was part of the deal. That was Chris Greer's draft pick. He had to coach Tua. And I think he saw an opportunity. Here's a guy that's got great accuracy, has a fantastic release. He built his offense around what Tua does well. But there's a problem. As everybody's looking at Mike McDaniel saying, what's going on with your offense? Why are the defenses able to defend it now? You're not changing. And the more I dug into this, I realized it's not Mike McDaniel that's not changing. Tua's not growing. He is still just as limited in what he can and can't do. So Mike McDaniel is calling a game plan and setting up his system based on what Tua is capable of doing. And because there's no growth, he can't expand that. And it's a theory, but it's my theory. This is what I think is going on. So when I look at a guy like McDaniel, who's got this massive playbook, and I don't think he's using all of it, because Tua can't throw the passes that need to be thrown. He's not rotating with his passes anymore. When he goes to throw deep, his longest pass this year, completion was 47 yards. I think he's gone deeper than that once, maybe twice. The problem is he can't rotate his hips. Why? Well, last year he missed the Jets game because of the hip injury. After the season was over, he told the media this is something that's probably not going to go away. So now we've got a hip injury not related to what he had in college that is maybe problematic. But if you watch him throw and you watch the tape from Alabama and earlier in his Dolphins career back in 2023, his mechanics were a lot different than what they are this year. And honestly, to answer your question, I think the problem is more Tua than Mike McDaniel, because I don't think McDaniel can really run the offense he wants to run.
Hips don't lie. Shakira.
Oh, yeah.
But Brian, there's a lot of rumors out there in the social media streets, and Mike McDaniel was even asked about it at the podium earlier today. that other defenses have caught up with Mike McDaniel and they've figured him out basically after scoring the 70 points against the Denver Broncos previously, and that people have figured him out. Do you think that's true, or is it sort of to what you said that he's had to sort of limit his playbook based on his quarterback?
Okay, so I don't want to say that he's limited his playbook. I just want to say that there's aspects of his playbook that he don't think he can really use. You can't take Tua from behind center and roll him out with the threat of running the football. He can't run it. Defenses know this. He's not a threat to run. And if he does make a couple yards, believe me, that guy's going to slide because he's so afraid of taking another hit. One more hit and he could be done for the career. So there's aspects of Mike McDaniel's offense that I don't think he can truly run with Tua back there. It doesn't open it up enough. Him saying, as far as defenses figuring him out or catching up, they know how to take Tyreek Hill away. Let's look at that real quick. You take Tyreek Hill out of the game plan, who are you left with? Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington. You don't have a tight end on the roster that's built into your system, so you can't use that. You don't have Jonnu Smith. Darren Waller's been injured since the day he arrived. So where is your next pass going to? Well, you're going to throw the ball to Jalen Waddle. Okay, well, we'll take him out of the game. That's not a big deal. So then you've got Devon Achane, who is one of the leading receivers as a running back, and you got Malik Washington, who is a 2-year, 3-year player. I don't remember when he was drafted 100%, but in any case, you took the bulk of Mike McDaniel's offense away. Tua is a 1-2 read quarterback. So now you've taken away his first read. You take Jalen Waddle out of the second read. The only options he has left is to go to an outlet receiver because he doesn't have the time in the pocket to make that third or fourth read. He doesn't have time in the pocket for Tyreek Hill to adjust his route. Are the defenses catching up? Absolutely. But Mike McDaniel's handcuffed as to what he can do because there's limitations with Tagovailoa.
And a quick follow-up here, just because, Brian, and you've done this because we've done conversations for almost a decade now of all our Jets-Dolphins chats, which is crazy to think about. And you've educated us before with concussions because we've had to talk about it with Tua. Well, Justin Fields has not been cleared from the NFL's concussion protocol. Aaron Glenn did speak earlier today and said if and when he is, he will be the starter for the Miami Dolphins on Monday. He did return to practice, so there's a lot of signs pointing in the right direction that he will be back. Can you provide any insights to our fans that may have not heard our previous conversations on this 5-step concussion protocol and really just sort of the difference between spraining an ankle and you're out insert amount of time versus concussions, which is, I think, still a big mystery to people, despite Dr. Omalu and the concussion movies and some of the awareness that is spread on it. I know, Brian, you're an expert in that area.
I don't know if I'd say I'm an expert. I've suffered a couple, and I spent 22 years as a paramedic. But the neurological aspects of a football player is going to be completely different from one player to the other. You got to look at the history. When you look at what Tua Tagovailoa went through with the multiples that he's had, most of those put him into a position where you knew it was serious from the start. It's a difference than getting banged in the head, and you're a little woozy, and you go into the tent, and they're like, your pupils may not be dilating as quickly as they should, or maybe you're just kind of like squinting a little bit while they're asking you questions. There's a lot of variables that can go into that. And when you start thinking about it from a player standpoint, if you haven't gone through a lot of them, it's usually pretty easy to shake off. But under the new NFL protocols, they are, like you said, the 5-step process. You go to the blue tent. Now you got to be cleared by an independent doctor or a neurologist. Then you got to acclimate yourself back to practice. Then you've got to be able to do a little bit more. Then you go back and talk to the neurologist. Are there any headaches? Are there any hiccups? Anything along the way? That's just to get to the point where the NFL goes, okay, you're clear to play. I would be surprised if Justin Fields does not play on Monday night. There is still plenty of time left for him to clear. He was able to return to practice today, regardless of whether it was limited or not. That's the big first step. And once you get there, if it's not like your third or fourth, I mean, Tua's had 2 in 1 year. He's had 3 over the course of 2 years. So there's a little bit more that goes into having those type of neurological appointments and clearances because there's a lot more tests that need to be done. In Justin Fields' case, it shouldn't be that bad. He missed last week. That's fine. But this week, I would be shocked if he's not on that field. And if he's not, then it tells me that the severity of his injury was a lot more. And we also got to take into consideration too that you've got you could take a concussion to the front of your head, you could take it to the rear of the head, you get hit in the ear hole, and you could have a concussion. So there's depending on where your body takes that impact, is going to also extend how much time you may have of missing time or missing practices.
Oh, definitely. We are hoping, Fields can pass the 5 steps. But hey, I may have a little bit more faith in Boy Green and my guy Tyrod Taylor if that is the case that he can't pass. Yeah, definitely got a little bit more faith, and especially with this defensive situation. So there's only a few teams, I believe. There's only about like 5 that have allowed 90 points so far in these first 3 games, and 2 of them are about to play on Monday night, the Jets and the Dolphins. So I know you already talked about it. The secondary has not performed at the level that they were hoping they would perform, but just the defense as a whole, is it salvageable? Can we say, because I know for the Jets, and we can be like, we miss Jermaine Johnson, our edge rusher. Now Sauce has been banged up a little bit. We've had guys. Now we just put Quincy Williams, our all-pro linebacker, on IR. For your side, what are you attributing to the lack of success? Is it injuries? Is it play calling? Is it defensive philosophy? Talk to me, Brian.
It's a lot of it. You look at the starting cornerbacks. Let's start there. You got Roswell Douglas and you've got Jack Jones. 2 months ago, neither one of them were on the team, let alone starting. So middle of August, late August, training camps are winding down. Dolphins have some injuries. Artie Burns goes out on the very first practice. He wasn't even hit. He was warming up, walking off the field, and tore his Achilles. That's what do you do about that? Then you get Kader Kohu, your nickelback, goes down for the season. You lose Storm Duck for 4 weeks. So then you start scrambling. Well, you don't have the money in cap space to go out and get somebody. You waited too long. So your opportunities are Roswell Douglas, Jack Jones, a Mike Hilton, or a one of the guys that are still out there right now, Asante Samuel or somebody like that. So these guys from the middle of August to now, that's all they've been on this team. And when you look at Roswell Douglas, he wasn't even on there until final cuts were made. So we're not even talking 3 weeks. So we can look at that aspect. So then you go back to the safeties. You got Ashton Davis back there. You guys know him well. You got Minka Fitzpatrick back there. And that's a different area for him to play because he's coming from kind of being a freewheeler in Pittsburgh to being more refined and having actual jobs to do here in Miami. The problem with the Dolphins defense, however, isn't the secondary. The Dolphins linebacker group is fantastic. The front 7 is fantastic on paper. So far, they're not doing their job. They are getting gutted in the running game. They cannot get pressure on a quarterback. This entire defense this year, with the lack of cornerback experience, was based on the edge rushers, the Bradley Chubbs, the Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson. These guys getting to the quarterback and forcing them to make plays before their secondary can get exposed. Well, they're not being able to get to the quarterback. Why? Well, because the front 4, Kenneth Grant, the rookie out of Michigan, Jordan Phillips, the 5th-round draft pick, Benito Jones, who's been kind of a journeyman practice squad player that's now on the active roster, and then, of course, Zach Sealer, are not getting the penetration up the middle, and they're not stopping the running game. So when your front 7 start to fall apart, who's going to get exposed? Well, it's the secondary that's already weak, that came in without the experience or have only been here for a month. You can't expect them to do their jobs when they're not getting the support from the front. So if I'm pointing a finger, my finger's going to the edge rushers in the front defensive line because they are not doing their jobs.
Again, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We're streaming live in 5 different destinations. My YouTube and James Woody's YouTube in particular, Take Flight Talk and Boy Green 25. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We're speaking with our Miami Dolphins guru, Brian Miller, a Fin Fanatic, baby. Again, we've been doing these Tata-Tays for a very long time, and we had to once again hop back into the tango and get back into this thing as we do every single year for sure with Jets Dolphins. Give me a history lesson here, Brian, because again, we apparently are on Mike McDaniel watch for him to potentially be fired. Wudi was bringing it up earlier with, does McDaniel stay? Does Tua stay? Combination of going. But I think the latest betting odds have Mike McDaniel to be the first head coach to be fired at some point during the season. Again, the history lesson I'm seeking here is Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins. Has he fired coaches mid-season before? For instance, the Jets under Woody Johnson had never fired a head coach mid-season in his 25 years of ownership. Of course, until last season when he did it for the first time to Robert Saleh. What is the history there for Stephen Ross in that department?
That's a great question. But before I go into that, if you want to talk history, I just realized that you and I have been doing this for a very long time. It's got to be at least 10 years, if not longer. And the reason and the biggest thing that I notice is that when I'm looking at myself on the video, I aged a lot from where I was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and real quick, I don't know if that was because of the time passed or the things that have happened to both of our teams over the last 10 years, but nonetheless. Yes.
Combination of the two. Yes, Stephen Ross has fired coaches in the middle of the season. He did it with Tony Sperano, and he did it with Joe Philbin. And I know this with Joe Philbin because the day after, or 2 days after, 2 games after Joe Philbin was fired, I had the opportunity to talk with Dan Campbell. And I asked him specifically, what do you do to try to undo what Joe Philbin did? And he did not like the question. And he came right up to me almost nose to nose and chewed me out for asking it. And this was a media type thing. And I love Dan Campbell. He scared the crap out of me. But there is a history for Stephen Ross to do that. He does not want to fire Mike McDaniel, though. He does not. He likes him. McDaniel's a likable coach. He's well respected within the organization. Ross does not want to do this. Not to mention the fact he's got $19 million still invested in him over the next 2 years. That being said, if people are thinking that McDaniel's going to get fired, I'm going to tell you why he's not. Entering the season, I thought for sure this was a good possibility. And had the Dolphins shown up and played in Buffalo and got blown out and looked like garbage, there was a very good opportunity or good chance that McDaniel was not going to last. But we've got the Jets, we've got the Saints, we've got the Falcons, the Panthers. Our next 5, maybe 6 out of 7 games are very winnable. And I think the Dolphins have the mindset to win those games. And if they can pull that off, you're looking at going into the back end stretch with maybe a 5-5 record by week 10. Then you're heading to Spain for the Commanders, and then you come back for a bye week. If the Dolphins are sitting at 6-5, 5-6, right around then, Ross isn't going to fire McDaniel. Now, if he can't beat the Panthers and he can't beat the Saints and he can't beat the Falcons, then that's a totally different story. But those are very winnable games. So I don't see McDaniel losing his job until the end of the year. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure that Ross will fire him anyway at the end of the year if the Dolphins somehow figure out how to get around to 8-9 record.
How dare you include us in the winnable games? The Jets. It's fine. Because I think that's how we're viewing you as well. That's what we're trying to stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding at 0-3. And if you are gonna stop the bleeding, if you're gonna get the better of us, Brian, what would you say is the key to this matchup specifically on Monday? How do the Dolphins get it done to stop the bleeding and go into, these games against New Orleans and the Falcons and potentially go on that nice little run to salvage everybody's jobs?
From where I sit and from what I look at, this game's going to end up in a tie. That's how this season is going for us, for both of us. If I'm the Dolphins, my biggest concern as a Dolphins fan is You guys got great running backs. You've got solid running backs that can hit the edges and they can pick up yards. They're physical at the point of contact. You've got good wide receivers that can expose a weaker secondary. You've got a quarterback, whether it's Fields or Tyrod Taylor, who can throw the ball. If I'm a Dolphins fan, my question is going to be how are they going to attack off the edge? Will guys like Phillips and Chubb and Chop Robinson contain the quarterbacks from moving outside? If Fields is playing, he's running the ball. I don't care if he's coming off of a concussion or not. That guy's going to run. He's going to slide or he's going to make it to the sidelines, but he's going to run. It's an element to the game that the Dolphins are not very good at. You guys also have a great tight end. Mason Taylor is still coming up, but there is a lot of things to like with him. So now you've got another outlet receiver. The Dolphins have not shown that they can really stop the run. They can't get pressure. They didn't do it against the Bills. They didn't do it against the Patriots. They didn't do it against the Colts. They're not getting quality pressure on the quarterbacks. So in that situation, I have to say, if they can't stop the running game of the Jets and if they can't force pressure on the quarterbacks to make bad throws, your receivers are going to eat up the Dolphins secondary because there's going to be patience. They can redirect their routes. If Fields gets in trouble or Tyrod Taylor gets in trouble, your receivers are going to be able to outmaneuver our cornerbacks. So that is a concern of mine. I think the other side of the ball, I think Miami has a good opportunity to exploit some of what the Jets are doing defensively. But again, your front seven is going to be the key as well, because if you can shake Tua and take away his first read, which is Tyreek Hill, you're already setting yourself up better because right now, Tua's not going to throw that ball 80 yards downfield. He's admitted he's not going to. He admitted that he can't. You don't have a starting quarterback tell your two receivers that when you go deep, expect the possibility of having to stop your routes and come back for a ball. And that's what Tua has said to them.
And I'll tell you this is, I'm sure, a reason why Dolphins fans should feel confident. I didn't realize it was this bad, and then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, what's a recent series history between the Jets and Dolphins? The Dolphins have won 14 of the last 18 since 2016. Hey, I mean, we won the most recent one. Thank you, Aaron Rodgers. Salute for that phenomenal 4-touchdown pass game with us once again missing the playoffs. But nonetheless, that did happen. So the series history there, Brian, favors the fish.
Yeah, it does. And you got to remember, before you can go getting all excited about last year, the Dolphins got eliminated at halftime when Denver won, and Tyreek Hill quit. Literally walked off the field. But you're right. I mean, there is a big history there. But when these two teams play, that history and those records go out the window because it's a dogfight with these guys. Now, you guys are going to be playing in Miami. It's 1:00 in the afternoon, or Monday night, I'm sorry. It's still going to be hot. It's still going to be humid. But it's Monday Night Football, and anything can happen. And if we know anything by watching these two teams play, dating all the way back to the Richard Todd years, before that, Ken O'Brien, this is a dogfight. It doesn't matter how bad the Jets are or how bad the Dolphins are. When these two teams play each other, it can go any way. Anyway, and you guys know this from Brett Favre. You guys were ready to go. Who knocked you out of the playoffs? Miami did. Miami wasn't very good that year. So go either way.
Yeah, that is true. I do want to follow up because you mentioned Tyreek Hill. Apparently, the Jets have a weird thing of getting receivers to quit. Antonio Brown quit against the Jets, started stripping his uniform off, throwing that into the crowd. Tyreek Hill now, so I don't know what sort of aroma the Jets are giving off that's causing that. But how did the Dolphins figure it out with Tyreek Hill? Because we all saw the post game interaction with Omar Kelly and company with Tyreek Hill, like. That seems like the toothpaste out of the tube. I don't know how you put that toothpaste back in the tube to fix the problems. Have the Dolphins been able to?
I don't know. If you look at the post games, the first 3 games, if you looked at Tyreek Hill and you listen to what he's saying, he's trying to say everything right. The Dolphins did not vote him as a team captain this year. Mm-hmm. He made the comment, hey, I'm not surprised. Look I've had a lot of bridges that I had to rebuild, an attitude adjustment that I needed to make. But if you watch the way he talks and you watch the mannerisms that he has, the losing is eating him alive. This is a guy, I will be absolutely shocked if he is still on the Dolphins before the trade deadline or at the trade deadline. I just don't see how you can contain him. If they continue to lose, if they lose this week to the Jets, I have to imagine that the phone calls are going to start going from Miami accepting them to Miami making them, because at 0-4, Hill's just going to be basically teetering on collapse. He's just not made up for losing.
What do you think, real quick on the Tyreek Hill stuff? If the Dolphins were able to trade him, what could they get? Would they try to throw him to the NFC? Because everyone talks about the inevitable Chiefs reunion, especially all their wide receiver problems. What would happen there?
I think the best that they could look for is maybe a second conditional, maybe 2 picks, maybe a day 2, day 3 pick. I mean, they're not going to get a first round pick for him. The bigger question is how much of the contract will another team want to absorb versus having Miami eat? And there's a lot of contract there. So I think this is a very complicated trade scenario. We've heard rumors of Pittsburgh maybe having interest. Of course, like you said, the Chiefs have a lot of reason to go back down that road. And honestly, I think that if he went to the Chiefs, it would make a lot of sense because there's familiarity. I think it would open up Patrick Mahomes' game. They're struggling this year too. As far as the NFC East goes, I don't think Miami's not smart enough to not trade a player within the AFC, knowing that they have to face him. This is a team that traded Wes Welker to the Patriots. So it's the Dolphins are going to look at what's best for them. And if the Patriots come out and say, hey, we'll give you a first round pick and eat his salary, he's going to the Patriots. I mean, it's just the way it is. So as far as what Chris Greer is going to do with it, it's just coming down to, he's got to weigh his options. And again, everything in Miami is so messed up right now because Chris Greer may not have a job at the end of the year. McDaniel may not. Tua will because of his contract. But there's a lot of people that think, and I'm on that side of the fence, Chris Greer is not going to get fired. Stephen Ross loves the guy. He's not going to he could waste every ounce of his money, implode the team, and Stephen Ross is still not going to fire him. What's going to happen is after this year, I think he's going to step down as general manager, take another position with the team, and they're going to hire another GM. And I think their GM might actually already be on the roster. They brought a guy in last year from the Raiders that was the assistant general manager, and I think that's who they're grooming to take over.
Real quick, is Tyreek washed? Like, is he? Because that seems like a low deal. I remember when he became a Dolphin, right? That was the whole thing between our two teams, Dolphin or a Jet, and what we were willing to give up. And at that time, he was a consensus top 4 receiver walking planet Earth. Since then, guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase have ascended, but in my mind, I'm still thinking, Tyreek is a fantastic receiver. What do you think about that? Do you think he has regressed at all? Of course, Father Time is undefeated. So have we gotten there with Tyreek?
No. Last year was an anomaly because he had a wrist problem. He had surgery on that wrist after the season, so he was dropping passes last year. If you watch Tyreek, he hasn't lost any speed. He's a guy that went out on the race circuit and was running against people.
True.
He was exploding. He was, trying to race Olympic athletes. So this is a guy that's not lost his speed at all. He didn't forget how to run routes. He can still catch a football. So if you think about that, where are you going to point your finger at? He's running the routes that Mike McDaniel wrote for him. He's getting too high look at safety. He's getting an outside corner that's pressing him at the line, that's kind of taking him out of his rhythm, so that if you get physical with Tyreek at the line, he can't get that speed off of there, because what happens? Tua Tagovailoa's first look is where? Tyreek Hill. He's got a 2-second release. If you can hold him up for a second by being physical at the line, which is something that most teams don't really, well, they do now with Miami, you've taken that first read out. Tyreek Hill's now out of the game, because he's going to go to Jalen Waddle. He's going to go to his outlet receiver. And by the time that he gets around to coming back to Tyreek Hill and finding him on the field, he's either getting sacked, pushed out of the pocket, or he panics and he dumps the ball off. Has Tyreek Hill lost it? Absolutely not. But the Dolphins have a problem at quarterback. He can't just run up the field and outrun everybody because his quarterback can't get the ball to him anymore.
I'll tell you this, Wudi, though, with your question, it's interesting because, my full name is Paul Andrew Esden Jr., but my mama only said it when I did something wrong. When I heard that, I'm like, oh, oh boy, oh boy, I might be in some trouble. So Sharon McLean saying Tyreek Hill's full name, Tyreek over the hill. I'm a good. I like what you did there, Sharon. I like what you did there, but perhaps not. Perhaps not. But there is one more I want to get into. Tortured fan base is, every week so far, there's been this revenge angle from some team, a player on the opposing team. Aaron Rodgers, of course, week 1. Week 2, Elijah Moore giving it back to the Jets, scoring a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers gets the win, of course. We go to week 3. Hassan Reddick gives it back to the Jets. Baker Mayfield had some beef, apparently, with the team. And then now Jet fans are starting to look ahead on opponents and scan through their roster and say, wait a second, are there any Jets here that might have some revenge angle? You mentioned my boy Ashton Davis, who I love. You guys got a great one. I love Ashton Davis. Great locker room guy. But Zach Wilson is the backup quarterback for Tua. And Tua has not been able to stay healthy. Are we inevitably going to see Zach Wilson on Monday Night Football? That's my question, Brian Miller.
No. Nope. Unless, I mean, you can't say never, because Tua is one hit away from being out. And I hate to say that about any quarterback, but it's true with him. So you can't say never. The Dolphins offense is not going to put up so many. They're not going to put up 45 points to 3 to where they're going to bench Tua and put Zach Wilson in just to play. I don't see that happening. I don't think the Jets defense is that bad. And I don't think the Miami offense is playing that consistent because their offensive line has problems. I don't think you see Zach Wilson this week. Maybe by the end of the season, maybe the next time the two teams meet up, maybe then you get to Zach Wilson. Because if the Dolphins are faltering, if Tua is not playing, that's about the time frame where he gets hurt and then he's out and starts missing games. That would be the target for Zach Wilson. But the Dolphins also have Quinn Ewers, and they may want, if Tua goes down, if Zach Wilson's playing because Tua's going down, there's a good possibility that we could see Quinn Ewers at some point to see if he's got anything to provide the team and get some experience, and whether or not this is a guy that legitimately can be a backup next year, because Wilson's on a 1-year deal. But this week, you're not going to see Zach Wilson except warming up on the sidelines unless something happens catastrophically either to Tua or to the Jets defense.
Brian, I always look forward to our chats. This one not as rosy with both of us 0-3, but hey, maybe by the next time we play in week 14 and we get our rivalry uniforms to debut at MetLife Stadium, maybe we'll be talking playoffs. Who knows what could be happening in a couple of weeks, a couple of months. So maybe.
Yeah, let me ask you a real quick question if you got a second with your rivalry uniforms. I know I see the Dolphins, the dark blue, the whole, the abyss look of the ocean. The numbers have like an aqua glistening letters to them, or outline to them, kind of given the reflection of water. What is with the Jets uniform? Because it kind of reminded me of like an alleyway in New York City.
So I appreciate you asking this. So we're putting this up on our screen for people who are watching. These are the Dolphins uniforms. They will debut on Monday Night Football. And to me, I've heard some Dolphins fans complain, but to me, I think they look great. Everything makes a lot of sense. Underwater, aqua, the colors pop, the black uniforms, like everything looks good here for the Dolphins. But then you asked a question about the Jets uniforms, which I happen to have handy here to throw up on the screen. Let's throw up. I got the Justin Fields version, so I'll throw this one up. Hopefully, it's a good omen. He's going to play. So yes, you said a little bit of an alleyway thing here, and when they sent out the press release to local media to cover that the rivalry uniforms are coming out, you can't really see it on this picture, but if you zoom in, there's like grate behind like some of the Jets logos, which is supposed to represent the sewer system. And I'm not kidding, but that is in the press, like to describe it. They're talking about the streets and Gotham, and like, I don't think they were going for grimy, but that sort of is the, connotation here is that, they're trying to get, I think what they're trying to do is like the man cover holes and say, look, this is the, the raw streets of New York, but I don't think it really gave that same vibe, basically.
Damn.
I like them. I mean, I think the darker colors are cool. I'm kind of impressed with some of the rivalry uniforms this year across the league. And like you said, I'm not opposed to the Dolphins uniform. I think an alternate third jersey, I think it's something that, fans can get behind. Miami fans are going to find a reason to gripe about every little thing. So it doesn't really matter what they do. Until they change the logo. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Dolphins logo at all. And I can't wait for somebody to take over the team and go, ooh, let's just go back to the way it used to be. But the rivalry uniforms are cool. I'm glad that you explained it to me, though, about the manhole covers and that kind of stuff, because that makes sense. Because the first time I saw it, I went, yeah, that's kind of like being in New York City at night, going past an alley going, yeah, I'm not going down there.
Yeah, again, that's exactly it. So I don't know if I was the Jets and I was putting together the press release, I would have openly used the words like, the sewer and stuff like that. Like they use some of that terminology in there where maybe if they had a redo, they would go back on that. But yes. And speaking of the rivalry jerseys, I think they start this week and then we're going to see them throughout the season from all these teams. The Cardinals tonight on Thursday Night Football, they're going to debut their rivalry jerseys. So we'll keep seeing them. So, hey, you know what? I'm all for jerseys. Fans want to buy new jerseys up. Hey, all the merrier.
Well, you know what? If you guys lose this week, the jerseys make a lot more sense because you'll be in the AFC East sewer. But bump.
Well, here's the good news and bad news. On one hand, like one of us has to be 1-3, or this tie that you've possibly predicted out in the universe. So one of us is going to have to be 1-3, but unfortunately, that means one of us has to be 0-4, and serious questions either way. So we're going to see what happens. But Brian, I very much look forward to this, and so does Wudi. We'll see if we can do a double dip this year and ahead of the Week 14 matchup later in the year. Hopefully, it works out with our schedules because we'd love to do this again. It's always a lot of fun, man.
I agree completely, and I look forward to it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having us on or having me on. And honestly, if we can make it to Week 14 where either one of us are still relevant, great. If not, I'll bring the beer and we'll just have a party.
There we go. We're covered no matter what. Go ahead, Wudi.
Yes, no, that sounds good to me. That sounds like my last few Week 14s. So I'm definitely up for that. But of course, would hope, because we do have cushier schedules, in between now and then. So hopefully, we can be at that 500 mark and just talk about, wild card. Try to smell the wild card if we can. But yeah, definitely appreciate it. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to Week 14 where we can see those jerseys, the sewage, all that type of stuff. Shout out to our listener, Ol Yank, who got that jersey. He got the Justin Fields sewage jersey 30 minutes before his concussion.
Wow. Good luck this weekend or Monday night, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you next time. Take friggin'